Well, good morning and welcome to Zen Live. What we're doing here, at least what I'm doing, and I hope you're following along with me, is that we're kind of like following the Dharma thread. Remember when I started this talk, these talks, we talked about Theseus and the Minotaur and the Labyrinth. And the Labyrinth is a metaphor for the mind, and the Minotaur is a metaphor for the pain body that is buried deep in the mind. And Theseus is a metaphor for our soul, so to speak, or our true self, our true nature, who is going into the labyrinth of the mind in order to see the Minotaur and then come back out of this journey through the mind back to the everyday world free from pain. And in order to do that, one needs Ariadne's thread, which is in the myth. Theseus is given the thread by Ariadne, and he goes into the labyrinth, kills the Minotaur, and comes out by following the thread. Otherwise, he'd be lost in there. Remember the movie Inception, where Leonardo DiCaprio was on a dream team? In other words, they had a way in which they could put a person to sleep and go into their dream, and they would go into the layers of their consciousness and plant something deep in there, so when that person woke up, he would want to do that. But you had to, when you went into the dream, you had to have a totem that would remind you that you were in a dream, so you would not stay there, you see. So Ariadne's thread, so a totem would be something that you would have in your pocket, and this is my totem. It's a little mandala, and when I see that, I would remember that I'm in a dream, and I would wake up, you see. And no one else knows about this, you see. So when I see this, I know that I'm awake. But if I don't see that, then I'm asleep. So seeing this, I don't know, maybe I'm getting confusing, but the point is that we have to have a way to get out of the labyrinth, or we stay in it. So the labyrinth is a confusing places where every turn is either this way or that, and I don't know which one. And whatever one we choose, we're still in the labyrinth. So there's no way out through choosing. The only way out is through seeing. So let's pick up that idea. The only way out of the labyrinth of the mind is to see the whole labyrinth at once, instead of seeing it from inside the labyrinth at every little turn and corner where every choice looks the same. You see what the difference? There is an awareness that is asleep in us that, when awakened, sees the whole labyrinth of the mind as if from the outside, while at the same time my consciousness is inside the labyrinth and asleep in it. So there is a sleeping consciousness that is lost in the mind, and there is an awakened consciousness that is whole and that is not divided, and both can be awake at the same time. But the primary consciousness is the whole consciousness, and the secondary conventional consciousness, which is our ego, is the one that's in the mind, that is a part of the mental process, you see. So this picture then is that effort cannot get out of the labyrinth. It is only through seeing, and that is Zen. Seeing is the satori, or the aha, or I see. And when you see the whole at once, not in pieces. Like the puzzle we talked about the other day. When you put enough pieces together, you can see the whole picture. It's a dog. But until you get enough pieces in there, you can't see them. But the seeing is the whole picture. So anyway, let's pick up today where we left off yesterday and just say we're talking about the gateless gate, and the gateless gate is a paradox. It is a gate, it is not a gate. That's a metaphor. It is that, it is not that. So anytime you combine two together, you have a metaphor. And the metaphor is whole, is the one, yet it is two. Remember that. The metaphor is one, yet it is two. So we were talking about the feeling of a recycled life where I'm Groundhog Day. I realize that I'm just going in circles, following my own footsteps, thinking it's somewhere else. And when we see that, that's seeing, then we notice the gateless gate, and we begin to be attracted to it. It's like there's a scent of light. The scent of light. We're attracted to this gateless gate. And it is the faith mind that takes us through there. It is the faith mind, not in something, but the faith it's the faith that if you go through, there'll be something there, but you don't know what it is, but you'll be okay. So, and when we go through the gateless gate, we discover our potential again, our creativity, our love, our wholeness, our completeness, and the feeling that life is moving again. And the other idea here is that that this passage is always framed as a metaphor that is not logical. Logic can't go through that gate. So let's take a look then. We'll pick up our story today. We'll pick up our Dharma trail today and look at intention. Now, we all have good intentions. We want to be good. We want to help people. We want to be good in the eyes of God. We want to be a good religious person, a good Christian, a good person. We want to be good. Nobody intentionally, unless Breaking Bad. Now, but that's another thing. So we're looking at this idea of good intention. I have good intentions, but the good always turns bad. You can't hold the good as something permanent. It always changes, or it always becomes boring, or it always becomes yesterday's good. Now what's the new good? The old stuff. Today we get something new. It's, oh, this is good. And then in a few days, I'm bored with it. What else is good? So we're constantly seeking the good, which is a metaphor for the whole. We're constantly seeking the whole, but it always turns into be not whole or bad. So good and bad, we perceive that as being separate. I want the good, I want to avoid the bad. This is two, the good and the bad. This is a mind that is two, or a world that is two. And so when our intention seeks the good, it believes it can separate the good from the bad. This is like seeking up without a down. Or I believe that I can get only hot and no cold. Or I can believe I can get soft and no hard. I can believe, see this, everything comes in pairs. And everything is two, but it's one. But we falsely believe, this is called ignorance. This ignorance is that we believe we can separate the good from the bad. So what happens with intention? So we have, if my ego, my consciousness, intends the good, but the effect is bad, something is askew here. If I intend to help, but I end up by screwing things up or making a mess, and and then I blame it, then what happens is, well, I blame it on somebody else did it. Trump is a great wisdom teacher. He is a great guru because he reflects this on a massive scale. If something goes wrong, he blames someone else. Obama did it. So this idea then is that I have good intentions, but when things go wrong, it's somebody else's fault. This continues the split. You see, now the bad that I'm experiencing is blamed on somebody else. I didn't do it. I have good intentions. You see? This is ignorance. This is the belief that you can separate the up from the down, or the positive from the negative. But you notice in a battery, if you look at a battery, you've got positive and negative. So the battery holds the two, the good and the bad, together. And when you hold them together, you generate energy. Excuse me. You generate energy when you can hold the two together. So what would happen if we hold the good and the bad? Well, all right, let me back up here. So we have I'm conscious of seeking the good, of doing the good, but I end up by doing the bad. Now, this is like looking at a street with two one-way signs. I'm going towards the good, but I'm doing the bad. But I don't see that I'm doing the bad because I blame it on somebody else. Or I blame it on circumstances. Or I blame it on myself. Somebody's got to be, either I say you did it or, oh, I did it, I'm so bad. The blame game means somebody did it. But that separates the good from the bad and makes somebody else, including myself, responsible for the bad. And this creates a vortex. It's called a vicious cycle. Because we're just going around and around trying to do the good and not come up with the bad. It's like you're constantly trying to make this puzzle work and come up with a good that is totally good. But you always come up with it begins to turn into the bad. Well, you shouldn't have done that way. Something is wrong. So there is a split in consciousness here. There's the conscious feeling that I'm doing good, but my actions are doing opposite. Someone else can look at me and say, "Well, you're doing that. You're not saying what you're doing. What you're doing and what you're saying are in conflict." You see, but from inside me, I'm seeing, well, I'm trying to do the best I can. You see. So there is a split in the mind here, and it creates the sense of being a victim. And when you have the feeling of being a victim, there has to be somebody who's making you a victim. So there's the blame. And this again splits the mind. Because the whole mind, the one is not two. That's what one means. One means not two. One means there is no second. There is no other. One means the whole. So this is the paradox. This is the metaphor. You are the world and the world is you. That means each of us creates the world we live in. So each of us is responsible for the world that is inside, that is me, and outside. Now, this is not logical, and it doesn't fit in our Western materialistic map. But it's the only road to wholeness and the solving of this enigma of the split will. Even in the Lord's Prayer. What the Lord's Prayer says, "Thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven." So that prayer says, I want my will to be the same as God's will, so I will be whole. So earth, that's me, and heaven, God, will be one, you see. Thy will be done. One will, not two. And yet, no matter how hard we try, how much we strive, we're still not in sync. We still got a wobble. We still got a tooth missing, a wheel's off. We need alignment. Something is what we're still drifting off into the bad. We can't be one, you see, because first of all, that prayer, if we're asking God to make me one, but I believe I'm two, God's going to give us what we believe. So he's going to give us two. So if I believe I'm bad, if I feel guilty for doing bad, and that's what I feel I am, and then I ask God to make me whole, but I affirm myself as being bad, and I keep affirming myself as being bad because I keep experiencing myself as being guilty or bad, you see, or responsible for the pain. If I keep experiencing that, you see, then that's what I affirm. And what I affirm, I'm going to get. So if my intention is to be whole in the future, but right now I feel split, the prayer is going to affirm what I am. So when I get to the future, I'll still be split. So I'm really affirming my my wound. This split in the intention is a wound. That can't heal because we're looking in the wrong place for healing. It's not in the future. So healing is now. This is where we live, is now. So how do we heal now? Is not through effort, because effort is moving towards the future. And the future doesn't exist. The wound is now. So I can only heal the wound of the split intention by seeing that I have split myself into two, and that the world that I'm creating and the creator is one. So the creator and the created is one, not two. What we do is split it in two and say, well, God's creating the world and I'm the created. So I'm a victim of the world when things go bad, or somebody, or myself, you see. So this creates a sense, an attitude, or a positioning myself in the world as a victim of the world. And that's painful. And somebody's got to be to blame, either somebody in the world or myself. But somebody's got to be to blame, because if I don't find out what the cause is, I can't remove the cause and be free from the pain. You see? So the pain must have a cause, and I have to get rid of the pain, so I have to get rid of the cause. And if I get rid of the cause, I'll get rid of the pain. So where is the cause? You did it, the world did it, Obama did it, or I did it. So I'm either going to hit the world or myself as the cause. But I can't get rid of the cause. Something's wrong. I'm missing something. Otherwise I'd be free. Otherwise I'd be liberated. Otherwise I would be whole and okay. So something is missing. Seeing is missing. Seeing is not an effort. Seeing happens spontaneously when we see that there is that I am both of the signs. See, I am conscious going good. Unconsciously, I am going bad. Seeing is consciousness. Seeing is seeing that I am good, bad. And that is a metaphor. A metaphor which says, I am good, I am not good. Or I am bad, I am not bad. So the metaphor holds the two. So seeing holds the two, and one is guilty / innocent, or innocent guilty. Or one is good, what I am good, I am bad. I am not good or bad, one or the other. I am good, bad. And when I am good, bad, that is, the seeing of that is whole. And I am no longer split into good or bad, or in the labyrinth of choosing this way or that. You see, the choice, if I see the world in terms of two, of duality, I'm constantly trying to choose one or the other in order to become whole. So I can't choose one or the other in order to become whole. I have to see that I'm already whole. I have to see that I'm already always okay. I have to see that I'm already complete and that there is no future. I don't need the future. That's what it means by living in the now. Living in the now is you don't need the future. You can still go catch a bus and do something, but you don't need the future in order to be whole. You are already whole. You are already complete. You see. So the seeing is like when you're doing a jigsaw puzzle and or in a labyrinth, and you're in the thing trying to get out, choosing your way out, and suddenly there is an awakening of a background awareness that just sees the whole thing at once. And then you're okay. You see. So this, and when you're okay, the world is okay. So when you can see that we are good, bad, I'm good, and that's like up and down. When you see that up and down are mutually dependent yet exclusive of each other, so good and bad are mutually dependent but exclusive of each other, and there's nothing wrong with seeing good and bad and eating a good apple and not eating a bad apple, but the seeing or the background awareness in our dual materialistic world is asleep, and it can only awaken and see the whole when we see that there is no exit from trying to get free from the bad by being good. Because that is seeking goodness in the future and avoiding the present and the now, you see. So we'll pick this up again. This is a very complicated subject, and I'm exploring it along with you, so that's why I'm trying to articulate it as we walk along, as if we were walking through the woods and looking at different things that we hadn't seen before. And we're just kind of like looking together. So we're wandering here, meandering, following the Dharma trail through the labyrinth of our mind, trying to find out why we suffer, trying to find out why pain happens, and why we try, no matter what we do, we're still jammed up in a double bind of lose-lose. So we just want to see. We're just curious. We're just asking questions. We're just looking. Free from conditioning, free from opinion, free from judgment. We just want to look and see what the truth is here. Just looking and listening is already whole. You don't listen with two ears. You don't see with two eyes, unless you're wall-eyed. One sees one world and one sees the other. There is one. So we're looking for the one. We're looking for wholeness and and being in the world as completely one with the world, so that we're always at home in the world. If the house burns down, that's bad, but I'm okay. You see? So this wholeness is the ground upon which the waves of the ups and the downs and the bads and the good happen, you see. We're looking to awaken that wholeness, that ground that is always at zero, that is always at ease, that is always okay. And it's upon that ground that the ups and downs of the physical world moves, you see. And when we're caught in pain and suffering and don't know why, and we feel the victim, and we're blaming everybody we can think of, it's because we just live in the waves, and the ground of awareness is asleep. So let's end there, and I'll see you this evening at Martini time.